They conjure up images of stuffed animals, strange machines, bizarre objects, and scientists. Curiosity chambers are making a surprise comeback in the modern world, a guide to the singular style from the masters of the genre.
A chamber of curiosities is a room filled with objects, each one stranger than the next. These chambers appeared at the beginning, or let's say during the first half of the 16th century, which was a time when mankind's place in the world was being questioned and redefined from an aesthetic, a philosophical and a scientific point of view. It was a time marked by the discovery of what we call the New World, a time when the very geography, the very definition of space in the world was being challenged and turned upside down. Curiosity chambers contain naturalized animals, fossils, and also oceanic finds with strange textures. To start with, there was a very scientific or intellectual aim behind the phenomenon, but it quickly turned into something aesthetic, since we generally find it impossible to separate the two.
And it's this aesthetic aspect of the Chamber of Curiosities that intrigues us today. For Patrick Mauriès, this renewed interest in the bizarre comes as no surprise.
These days, the world's full of virtual imagery, so reality is a thing that's less and less clear-cut. And we've lost all contact with what is natural. So it's a way of getting back to nature and facing up to our mortality, which is a subject that the society today prefers to avoid, a subject that no longer has its place.
What's more, this reality is the extreme opposite of the modern world. It is anti-functional, anti-streamlined, and anti-minimalist.
At first glance, none of this qualifies as fashionable, and yet it is now undeniably in vogue. In Paris, the boutiques of Harmon Hendide have always been synonymous with a pioneering spirit.
Hello, come in.
So, when he moved into interior design, it was sure that he would again take things in a new direction.
The layout of these premises allowed us to completely shut the contents off from the outside world. This combination of collections, objects and curiosities. Because a chamber of curiosities usually is something that is not on general display. It's for certain eyes only.
A privileged look, then, at these curiosities.
Here we have this small display cabinet full of collars, which is quite unusual. It's a collection of ladies' collars, which is really quite rare. It's a very fine collection that is dated around 1900. This is a section of the trunk of a chestnut tree that must be at least 400 years old, an object that is almost a fossil now. But actually, it is the texture of the bark that I really liked. It has a completely sculptural aspect, and it's very eye-catching. Now, this exceptional object is an absolute must in a curiosity cabinet. It's an engraved mirror, as you can see, that we managed to acquire in perfect condition. It dates back to the late 19th century. It's true, it's a constant search and an in-depth study that can sometimes last several months, and it involves meeting people who are equally passionate about these objects, who are aware that a certain object is likely to appear on the market at a given moment, so you have to be ready to really do the research and to keep a keen eye on developments in the marketplace. It's a demanding profession.
So, a chamber of curiosities is everything, but definitely not just anything. An indispensable object is a stuffed animal, but if you like animals too much for that, there is another solution. Check out the papier-mâché creations by the Farfelu Farfadet.
Why papier-mâché? Because in some chamber of curiosities in the 18th and 19th centuries, some objects were made of papier-mâché, in particular scientific objects or anatomical figures of humans or animals, were often made of papier-mâché or carved out of wood. And then afterwards, papier-mâché became a pretext for us. Basically, we see it as a material like any other, just like wood, bronze, or it has become a pretext. Afterwards, we forget that our sculptures are made of papier-mâché. So actually what makes them look so lifelike is the use of antique sulfur eyeballs, which taxidermists also used, but that are today made of crystal, which catches the light much better and catches the eye. In fact, I took my inspiration from a dried-out cat that I had in my house. It had been flattened, and I found it in an old grange. But since I'm not a pro in sculpting cats' heads, I preferred to make a dog's head. But we really don't see our work as being in any way linked to that of taxidermists, because the papier-mâché creates a distance compared to real animals. It's much more about experimenting with the second degree, with a more humoristic approach.
Humor and the bizarre, a new take on the Chamber of Curiosities. As for Anne-Cécile, she has chosen to move away from the overcrowded look.
Hello, welcome.
But to keep to the underlying theme of the bizarre, twisted and strange, with disturbing or intriguing objects dotted around her apartment.
So here we are in the entrance hall, and the first thing that greets the visitor is this insect gallery. Basically a mixture of naturalist insects. So here we have a line of stag beetles, and the overall effect is very graphical and very contemporary. Next to which I have placed these works by Maïssa Toulet. They are colonies of baby crabs made with real crab shells. In this corridor, I have associated a series of slightly bizarre objects. So we have this piece of artwork by Gwen Roach, an artist who is attracted by the realm of the bizarre and the insect world. Next to it, there is this nest of snakes. And in front of that, I have placed this ecosphere. An ecosphere is a closed world that shrimp live in. They live 2 or 3 years in this completely self-sustainable world that is a perfect example of the ecosystem of our planet in miniature. Now we are looking at the section of wall above the dining table. I have mounted this horse's head in gold-plated zinc. It is an object that can still be seen in some horse meat butcher shops. In fact, it has a connection with my family history. Now, this table itself is actually quite strange because it is an aluminum offcut created by the manufacturer of airplane cockpit parts, which was then assembled on this aluminum base. Now, this sculpture, it is in the same vein as this cage. Both are the work of Geraldine Gonzalez, who makes sculptures out of paper. I must admit that I do have some animal skins here and there in my apartment. Starting with this cow skin that I use as a rug, a spotted cow skin. So this is the bedroom, and once again, I have some animal skins. Here we have this old bear skin, and oh my word, has it had a full life. It has kept me warm on many a cold winter's night. These are my 2 dried fish. This flying fish and this ray skeleton, which somewhat represents my meeting with the person with whom I live, so my husband, because this object comes from my family and this one from his.
So, we have the modern and the classic version of the Chamber of Curiosities. In any case, one thing is clear. There is also room for the bizarre in our homes, which will enchant our children at least.